This is the Marius sweater with a round yoke. This is what I grew up doing, so it just has a special place in my heart, and my hands are definitely feeling it. I'm feeling it right around my knuckles here. I want to capture the madness that went into this project. During this first week of November, I've knit almost 2 kilos of yarn. I felted these yesterday. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Lene and I'm a knitter from Norway, and welcome to my knitting podcast. Here I talk about all things knitting, current projects, finished projects, planned projects. Sometimes I talk a bit about yarn, just anything that pops into my head while we sit here and chat. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me this week. I have had such a big week of knitting. I haven't knit this much since the last week before my wedding, I think. I'm definitely feeling it in my hand, but I'm really excited to share my progress with you. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm wearing today. And today I'm wearing, I think this was the last big item I finished last year. This was at least the last thing I knit for myself last year. This is my sweater number 20. I knit on this basically all of the fall and the start of winter season last year. I think I cast it on September and then I finished it in the middle of December last year, and this has been such a staple in my wardrobe ever since. I don't think there is many sweaters I've worn more than this, just because it is so comfortable, perfectly oversized, and it is a really thick sweater, but because it is so oversized in the sleeves and body, it works really well in the summer too, to regulate the body temperature, because it isn't like a tight layer of wool but a really flowy one. So I've gotten a ton of use out of it, and not only is it great in all of those ways, it also looks really pretty, so it stands out there and I just want to pick it up all of the time and wear it. I was really nervous when I knit this up if I would like it. I knew that I liked the cabling and the details and the design, but I was so unsure about the color I chose, because I chose this. This is Drops Alaska. It was also my first time ever using Drops Alaska, which made me a bit nervous. I did make a swatch, but a tiny swatch is never exactly the same as a huge sweater. This sweater is also almost 1 kilo of yarn, so one tiny little swatch will never behave quite the same. So I was nervous to see how the yarn would behave when I wore it and when I washed it and all of that. Luckily that has worked out so well, and I'm really eager to try to work with Alaska again. I'm just waiting for an opportunity to do so. And I also chose the color Sand to knit this in, because I think that a lot of structure and especially cables do really well when you knit them in lighter colors, at least not like navy blue. I think they can still be really pretty in navy blue and really classy, but the cables and the structure doesn't stand out as much, and I really wanted the cables to be very noticeable, so I chose a light color, but I was very afraid that the color might be too light, and that I wouldn't enjoy wearing it, that it would be a bit of a boring color. But it isn't the most exciting color, but I think that works for this sweater because the cables are so much. There are so many different cables, like all of the cables are different, and there's something happening everywhere on the sweater. So I'm glad I chose a more muted colors, so the cables can sort of speak for themselves, because they are loud enough. So all in all, I'm just really happy with this sweater, and I've been using it tons. The first time I wore it, or the first week I wore it, I was a bit nervous, because as I said, it was my first time knitting with Drops Alaska. I didn't know how it held up, and this pilled so much in the first week. The sleeves were just covered, the hole underneath here almost the front of the sweater was filled with pills, and the front of a sweater almost never pills for me. So I was so afraid that this wasn't going to hold up when I wore it. But I plucked all of those pins off because they were quite huge, so I could just easily pluck them off. And ever since that first week, I've been using it just as much, if not more, and it has not really pilled again. Of course, there are some small pills, some left from when it pilled the first time, and also there are some new ones, but this really does not pill that much. I think you can see a couple of small pills here, but it really doesn't pill that much for 100% wool yarn that is quite chunky. I think it was just a lot of excess, what is it called? There was a lot of fiber with nowhere to go that pilled, but now that I have used it and all of the fibers have settled, it really does not pill that much. Even if I wear it under a coat, if I wear it all of the time, it doesn't really pill, which I am really happy about because I want this to last forever. I also chose to do the thick v-neck. I'm really glad I did that too, because I think I've gotten more use out of it. If I hadn't done this wide, the neck opening would be much wider, and I don't think I would have liked such a chunky sweater and then half of my chest exposed. I don't think that would have made sense together, so I'm really glad I went for the chunkier neck option, since everything else in this sweater is quite chunky. And then I made one modification which I'm super happy about, and that is that I made a split here. I really enjoy for my oversized sweaters to have a split, so I split and I knit the back a lot longer than I knit the front, and that just makes it move even better because this is quite a stiff fabric with the chunky yarn and all of the cables, so I think it just flows a bit better since it has that little bit of opening there. So all in all, I'm really happy with this sweater. I really recommend it if you're wanting to do something cabled. It looks a lot more intricate than it is when you just get those cables established. It's a really fun project to work on, can't recommend it enough. But that's all I'm going to say, and then we can move into what I've been working on this week. And I've been doing quite a lot. I think we'll start with my newest project. I have cast one project on this week that's new from this book. This is the Marius Strikke book. This is my grandma's book with basically all kinds of Marius sweaters, Marius everything, Marius pillows, Marius sweaters, Marius just whatever you can think of. And this is the book I always use when I make the Marius sweater for our Christmas cards. So here is the one I'm making now. This is the Marius genser, Marius sweater with a round yoke, so it's not exactly like the original, which you would stick and sew in the sleeves. Loads of work. My son already has one of those, but he didn't for the first few years. We've always had this one in the non-traditional colors too, so we're going to keep that up, so I need to make another one. The last one he had, I think, was in size 2 years, so that just does not fit anymore. So I'm making the size 6 years now, and I just got started. This pattern I think recommends using Sandnes Garn Smart, which is a DK weight. I have never listened to that recommendation. I always make these sweaters in Drops Alpaca. I think that makes the sweater wonderfully airy and light, and the alpaca is still really warm, so you get the best of both worlds, a really lightweight warm sweater. So this is the base color of the sweater I'm knitting now, this alpaca. I think it's in the medium grey color. This is the base color for my husband's Marius sweaters, and it's always been the base color for my son's. And then my Marius sweater with the round yoke is in a much lighter grey. I think it's called pearl grey maybe. So I just got started, I don't know, I think 2 days ago. I just wanted to get started to see how long it would take me, because this is for our Christmas card, so it needs to be done at the very latest by the last weekend in November. That's like the last opportunity to get Christmas photos taken, so we'll get Christmas cards ready. So I just wanted to cast on to see, first of all, see how many stitches is it, see how long the ribbing would take me, and just get a feel for how this would knit up and how long I would kind of need to plan for this taking. And I did not spend very long working on it at all. I did a little bit of the ribbing one night and then finished the ribbing and did a little bit of stockinette the next morning. So all in all, I've probably spent 2 to 3 hours on this, and I already have 5 centimeters of ribbing, and then I have maybe 3 centimeters of stockinette here. And I think the whole thing in this size is supposed to be 24 centimeters, so I think this is going to progress quite quickly. This is also worked bottom up, as you might see. So this is the start of the body here, so working that until 24 centimeters, and then both sleeves. And at the end of the sleeves, you start with the first bit of color work, and then the whole yoke is color work with decreases and color work and all of that. I find often that I'm a big fan of stockinette, and I'm a big fan of new projects and casting on something new. So the body goes by quite quickly because of the energy from casting on something new, and then the sleeves go by quite quickly because sleeves for kids just do. And then the yoke goes by quickly because there's a lot happening. You're always looking forward for the next part of the color work or the next decrease and getting fewer stitches. So I prefer working top down for a lot of reasons, but I find also it's really easy to motivate myself when I'm working bottom up. So I think maybe motivational wise, bottom up is the best, but the first couple of rounds when you connect when you're working bottom up, those are not fun. I also don't love having to stitch the underarms together when working bottom up, so there are a lot of huge pluses to working top down, which is why I do that most often. But this is the way I learned to knit. This is what I grew up doing, so it just has a special place in my heart, and I really enjoy the couple of times a year I do this knit bottom up. It's not that often, but I always am really pleasantly surprised by how much I like doing it. So as I said, this is the bottom color or the main color, and then I did not bring the white with me, but it's just the off-white of the alpaca. And then I just this week got the yarn because I did not have enough of the blue, because I do grey and then the main thing is white, and then I'll show the picture while I explain this. So here is in the original colors. So this part of my sweater is grey, and then the white is still white, and then the red up here I usually do blue. And I didn't have that, so I've just gotten more of this, and I got 2 skeins, so I would have for this sweater and hopefully the next size too. But what I did realize when I got this yarn, because I still have a little scrap of the blue yarn I've used before left, and what I realized is that this is not the same shade. I've always thought that the blue shade I've knit with before has been the navy blue one. Apparently not, because I just ordered navy blue, and this is much lighter and a unicolor. I think the other color is a mix color, so it's not quite the same. But I held this yarn up to my husband's sweater, which is knit up, and the difference wasn't that striking then, so I'm just going to stick to this because now I have this yarn and hopefully it won't be noticeable. I am still bummed out about it because I want it to be perfect, but yeah, I don't know. This is what we have to work with, so we'll just do that, but it's not the right color. But that is a new project I started working on this week that I'm hopefully going to have time to prioritize. But I did start on it now to see how long I can avoid working on this for, because now I saw that, okay, this progresses quite quickly, so I can maybe wait at least another week before I really start working on it, because I still have a couple of other deadlines that really needs to be prioritized. And now that that project at least is on my needles, it gives me a little bit more of a reminder every day to work on it, because now at least the pattern is logged into Knit a Note and the project is logged into there, so every time I go into Knit a Note I get a reminder to work on it. So hopefully it will all work out in my favor, because I really want to get to the bottom of all my deadlines and meet them all. But that is the new project. And then I have not only been knitting this week, but also been felting as much as possible. I don't trust our washing machine 100% because it has let me down a couple of times in the last year and a half. But we have gone through the whole machine and trying to clear everything out, look through all of it, and I think I'm not going to take any of the credit for this. I think my husband has figured it out, because I have been watching the washing machine like a hawk when felting, but it looks like the issue we've been having with the centrifuge not working has been solved, so I'm starting to trust a little bit more for every time I wash. And the first thing I felted, because this is really low stakes, is the sitting mat I started working on and finished last week. This was a really simple project that went by really quickly. This is the Lucy sittunderlag, Lucy sitting mat by Arctic Kids. This is supposed to be a lion's face. My son is so disappointed in me for not having embroidered a lion face yet. He is impatient, but the beige here is supposed to be the lion's face, and then the orange is the mane. I don't know if it's more clear that it's the mane now that it's been felted. I hope so. And then I'm going to embroider ears here and eyes and nose together here in the middle. I also haven't quite figured out what kind of yarn I'm going to do the embroidery with. I'm going to use yarn from my stash, but I don't know if I want to do brown to kind of soften the contrast a little bit, or do black so it really stands out. If I want to do like a really thin thread, or if I want to do a bit thicker. I have been thinking about maybe using baby merino. The rest of this is 100% wool yarn that's not superwash treated, but the embroidery is not going to be felted, so that doesn't really need to be non-superwash. But yeah, I'm not quite sure. Also, to be able to felt this, I needed to get the ends woven in, and I'm not going to take the credit for that either, because my mom, my grandma, my aunt, and my uncle's girlfriend all met up on Monday and had like a knitting evening at my mom's place, and I brought like a huge basket of all of my slippers and this one, and just said pretty please to my grandma, and I knit something for her. I'll show that here. That's a reminder for me to talk about that too, but I knit something for her so she could weave in ends for me, and actually it took me longer to knit than it took her to weave in ends, but I think it was a great deal for me because I love knitting and I hate weaving in ends. So I got all of the slippers I had finished by then, woven in all of the ends, not sewn like the last part. I didn't need sewing to like shut them, but woven in all of the ends, and also woven in all of the ends on this. So this is now done besides the face, and I really hope that I'll get the face done soon, but it's not been a priority. I hope that this can become a Christmas gift for my son. I don't think that he has the patience for that because he wants it now, but that's still my hope, so I don't I'm not prioritizing this because I want this done for Christmas and not right now. But yeah, that's something. And then the thing I knit for my grandma, she really wanted to make the teddy bear hat. Is the baby bear bonnet by Knitting for Olive. She really wanted to make that, but she wanted to make a couple of modifications and she did not want to do the baby bear part of it. So she got the pattern, cast on the right amount of stitches and did color work on the part where you're just knitting back and forth. And then when she finished that part and there was time to start increasing for the ears, and then doing all of the ear things, and then doing all of the decreases in the back, she gave it to me and I finished it during that knitting evening. Also the I-cord, because she didn't want to do that. So it was a collaboration between her and me. I did like the top part, the only one color part, and she did the color work. I think it turned out really well. It's knit in, I don't have it here, but the picture, it's knit in merino extra fine, because you can knit the baby bear bonnet in just one strand if you do it in like a thin DK. So merino extra fine, both the like rusty brown color and the white. And then I think the pattern is from a pant pattern from, I can't quite remember the designer, it's Miriam something I think. I'll write that on screen and show where she got the colorwork inspiration from, because she just knit matching pants. That's why she wanted this hat with the scrap yarn she had left. And I think we did size 9 months. I usually like to size up a bit in hats because I would rather them be a bit bigger than a bit small, and usually hats end up a little bit small when I make them. So we did 9 months and I'm really happy. It was a really great trade for me to just help her a little bit with the hat, for her helping me with all of the ends. I really scored gold there. And speaking of slippers, that is where all of my time this week has gone. I have knit so many slippers. I don't even know how many, because my grandma did weave in ends and I've been felting some, so I don't have the stack here to show you, but I have my list here where I cross off the people I have knit for. So I'm going to try to count how many I did this week. I think I did 7 pairs and I'm on the 8th pair. I have almost finished the 8th pair. This is the 8th pair, so this is half of the 8th pair, and then this is the last part that I'm working on. So I'm like 3/4 done with the 8th pair in just a week, which feels crazy, and my hands are definitely feeling it. I'm feeling it right around my knuckles here, and mostly I'm feeling it like down my arm here, especially before I go to bed after I've had like a full day of knitting, especially yesterday where I knit almost 2 full pairs of slippers. Yesterday I felt it like radiating down my arm before I went to bed. Luckily 1 night of rest clears it pretty much all up, but I need to be careful. But I'm kind of battling between being careful, because I still have, after this pair, I have 10 pairs left that I have to do, and then I have 4 more pairs that are more optional but that I would really like to do. So my hand really can't give out on me now, so I need to be mindful of that. But I'm also so sick and tired of slippers. I have been knitting slippers here and there for 5 months now, and it's been pretty much the only thing I've been doing for the last month, and I'm sick and tired of it. I'm really happy with these as Christmas gifts. I think they're going to be great Christmas gifts. I'm really happy I'm actually doing it, and I'm really proud of myself for the progress I've been able to make. But I've made so many pairs now. I've made a couple of like the baby slippers, and then I made so many of these double slippers from Sandnes Garn, the free pattern, and it's driving me a bit crazy. I get some change because the size change and the colors change, but other than that, it's pretty much just slippers, 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 and it's driving me a little bit insane. So my motivation is at an all-time high to just get this over with, and that's why I've been knitting almost 8 pairs this week, but that's kind of clashing with the need to take care of my hand. So we'll see. I really hope I won't mess with my hand by doing this, but I also really need for my sanity to finish this project, and I could probably do less, but my sanity just needs me to like finish these slippers, not give up. That wouldn't feel as nice. But my original deadline was the 16th of December, which is the same deadline. That's the deadline I need them finished by if I want to ship them all of the ones I need to ship. And I really want them all finished before I start shipping any of, because I want to, if I'm going to spend this much time and energy doing something, I really want the picture to commemorate it. I really want to be able to look back on this. I want to capture the madness that went into this project, so I don't want to start shipping them off before all of them are done. That's probably my biggest issue. But that was my start deadline, the 16th of December. That's the same deadline, and I'm doing so well in terms of that deadline. But the more sick and tired I get of these slippers, the sooner I wanted to move the deadline. And my husband's also leaving next week, and for work, and where he's going to meet at least 3 of the gift recipients that we would have to ship for if we don't give them there. So he has the opportunity to just hand them off, which would save us lots of money in shipping. But that would mean that all of the slippers, if I want to take a photo of them all together, all of the slippers would have to be done by the 20th of November, which is a much crazier deadline. It gives me almost a month less to work, but it also gives me a month of free time to do whatever I want to before Christmas, which feels so lovely. I so want to have that opportunity, but that's so close. I have 12 days until that day, and as I said, I have to finish this pair of slippers and then 10 more, and all of them need to be felted and all of them needs to be dry. And I also have those 4 more that are optional, but that I would really like to do. So I'm not doing the best in terms of that deadline, but I would love to reach that deadline. And the newest deadline that I've come up with is to have them all done by next weekend, because I spend pretty much all of this week knitting slippers, and I can do that for 1 more week, but I don't want to do it for 2 more weeks. So I would love to be done by next weekend, but that would mean that I would need to do at least 1.5 slippers each day, and I don't know if that's healthy, or I know that that's probably not healthy, but I'm really sick and tired of these slippers now. And also, on top of the almost 8 pairs of slippers I finished, I also gave my mom yarn to finish 2 slippers too. So I am getting some help from outside, so that is really helpful, and I'm definitely going to get there by Christmas. I'm definitely going to get there by my original deadline, and I have never been this ahead when it comes to Christmas gifts. Usually I'm knitting Christmas gifts on Christmas, like 50 minutes before we're giving away the gift. I'm still sitting there knitting. So this is so much progress, and I'm giving like 10 times more Christmas gifts this year than any other year, but I would just like to be done now. I have so much else I want to work on, and I just don't want to work on these slippers. I've done so many. I'm going a bit crazy, but this is also a new color. I got some more of this this week because I did not have enough slipper yarn for one of the slippers, surprisingly. And I also stole some of the grey Nepal to start working on my Korshavn blanket. So I got 1 kilo more of Drops Nepal, and I got it in the light grey color, which is really light and lovely. So I've almost made the first pair in that. So I did add to my stash a little bit this week, but I did decrease my stash by more this week than I added to it. I got 2 skeins of Drops Alpaca this week, 1 kilo of Drops Nepal, and I got 3 of each of these colors in Drops Flora, so 300 grams of Drops Flora. But just during this first week of November, I've knit almost 2 kilos of yarn just by doing this sitting mat and then doing all of the slippers. That has freed up so much yarn from my stash. As you can see, I have one free shelf here that used to be a slipper shelf, and the back here too, I used to have like half of my cabinet full of slipper yarn too. That's also empty. I still have a lot of slipper yarn downstairs, but it's really starting to lessen. So that's really motivating, and I'm finishing families. I think I finished 2 or 3 families this week, and I finished multiple colors that I won't have to knit in again. So I am seeing progress everywhere, but I don't. I'm struggling a bit to see if that progress is enough, because I am going just the tiniest bit crazy with all of these slippers. But another thing I was able to do with the slippers, since my grandma helped me weaving in ends, is that I've been able to felt them. And again, gotten loads of help, because let me show you this pair that I just finished. This is part of the 8 pair. They're open underneath when I finish knitting them, and I've chosen to do it that way. I know you can have them closed underneath if you do the Judy's Magic cast on, but these slippers are not that enjoyable to knit to begin with, so I want to make it as enjoyable as possible, and I don't like magic loops, so I've decided to do it that way. And sewing them together and weaving in ends is also like the one thing I can get help with, so I'm not going to use more time doing the Judy's Magic cast on when that step is actually something I can get help with. So here you see a pair that's sewn shut. We're not doing the sewing shut in the prettiest way, because it doesn't really matter when they're going to be felted. It kind of disappears in the felting, and my husband is helping me doing that. He has seen me become increasingly overwhelmed with these slippers, and he has said that he can do the sewing. He quite enjoys it too, because every day he asks me what more he can sew, and I have quite a few slippers that he can sew together. So he sews them together by color when I'm finished with one color, and also my grandma has weaved in all of the ends on that color. He sews them together. So this is the newest that are ready for felting. Here I have 3 pairs in this color. I can't remember the color name, but I have 3 pairs in this that are ready to be felted. And as I said, with the line sitting mat, I have been spending quite a lot of time felting this week. And as I said, I've not been very trusting, so I've been very hands-on, which means that probably some of these slippers are a bit less felted than they should be, but I would rather them be less felted and then write instructions for how to felt them on your feet than them being too felted and them not fitting. So that's the way I've decided to do it. Here is the smallest size, felted and put together. So the half of the slipper is inside of here. These turned out really cute. I think this is the one I'm the most happy with. These are in the color Forest, I think. And I've also been doing some trial and error with felting pairs together and seeing how that goes. So I felted those together with this pair. This is the largest size, the 44 to 46, in the same color. I'm trying to felt them together when they're in the same color. So that's 2. That was the first load of slippers I did. And then the next one. These are for my grandma and my husband's grandma. So both of these are in beige, I think. This one is 38 to 39 and this is 36 to 37. Both of them are not felted quite enough, but too afraid to felt them anymore because I think it would go too quick from here to like super felted, because as you can see, you see the stitches, but I don't know if you can see, they are really quite felted even though you can see the stitches. This is my favorite way for something felted to look, so hopefully they'll fit okay. So that was my second trial run, and then these are for my dad, and the only one in this color, so I felted these on their own and tried to trust the washing machine more, because for each time I felted something I tried trusting it more and more. So I let the whole like quick wash program run on these ones, and I think that turned out pretty nicely. I still think they are a tad bit too big, but as I said, rather too big than too small. I'm not going to play around with it anymore. These are in the orange color in Drops Nepal and also in the biggest size. So all of that I did in one day, and then took a bit of a break because I had to sit in front of the washing machine for the whole duration of all of this, so that was quite enough. And the best thing with the way we're doing it now is that I can knit all of the time. I knit while my husband sews them together, and then I take a little break to help him weave in the ends for what he has sewn together and help him get started again. But I can knit and then I sit in front of the washing machine and knit. So I have been able to not take any breaks from the knitting to weave in ends, sew them together, wash them, anything. So that has definitely streamlined the process a lot. And then I felted these yesterday, also trusting the washing machine to see how that would go, and I'm happy with how that went. I have not folded these together yet because they have been drying, but I can show how I fold them in now that they are dry. So I take this first toe and just fold it in on itself, and then I try to like put my hand in there and guide it down the other foot. It becomes a bit harder to do because when it has dried, it has created these lines on the edges here, and those are not the same edges that it's supposed to have when it's been tucked into each other. So you just kind of have to massage them a bit together, but you just try to manipulate it together in the best way possible. These I also felted on their own because they are the only pair in this color. Now it's all in the right place. I'm just trying to massage it to make it lay flatly. So felted these on their own, and that worked out fine, just like my father's slippers. And then I did these. These were the first pairs that I felted together without being hands-on, and as you can see, I hope you can see, this is how the fabric looks on this one versus on this one. Can you see? These are a lot more felted, the ones that had two pairs together, which is to be expected, but I have worried. But I think, to be honest, that these are more correctly felted than the other ones. I'm just really nervous to over felt them because I am not in the mind space to make any more slippers. I cannot make replacements. So I've just been really nervous about that, but the pattern does tell you what they are supposed to measure approximately when they're felted, and these measure right, whereas the other ones measure a bit big, so I think this is still fine, and you can still see a little bit of that stitch definition here. They are just a little bit more felted, which again is to be expected when you do 2 pairs together, but that has made me a bit wary because I have 3 pairs in this color, and I don't think I'm going to felt all of these 3 together. I think that might be a bit much. But yeah, those are all of the pairs I've felted. So I've felted 8 pairs, which is also really great progress. And I hope I'll be able to felt like 3 to 5 pairs every day. Also, my grandma is coming today because it's my husband's birthday. So I hope she can help me weave in ends on all of the slippers I've knit since Monday. So we can also sew those together and felt those. So I still have loads of slippers to go, but I'm doing really well in terms of my original deadline, and hopefully I will be done with knitting slippers at least before we reach December, which means that I will have all of December to just enjoy myself and knit on projects I want to do. I also have that deadline with the Marius, but that's really enjoyable. It's a pattern I enjoy doing. It's also just one, and I also need to be done with that before December, so December will just be me enjoying myself, which I am so excited about. It's been a full packed with different deadlines, so I'm really excited to put deadlines behind me and hopefully go into the new year expecting less of myself and having fewer deadlines. That would be really great. I think that will have to be like my number 1 goal for next year. But yeah, I did a lot of slippers. I had really hoped that I would be able to cast on the Siri cardigan again this week. I did cast it on, I think 2 weeks ago, didn't work out. Knit a swatch. I think that swatch is working out, but I have not found needles to cast it on, and I've not found time. I think it will have to wait until this slipper marathon is done. I'm also going to see today if I can like push some of the slippers on my other knitting relatives today when they're coming here. My mother is helping me with 2 pairs, as I said, but if I can get my grandma and aunt to help me with 1 or 2 pairs, that would also be really lovely and get me so close to my goal. And that would mean that I can knit my Siri cardigan quicker. And also all of my other projects, I have that Marius now that's taking priority, but I also have 2 other Marius sweaters, the original ones that I really want to make for me and my husband for Christmas. And of course, my Korsvika blanket that I am working on just a little bit here and there. I have not been able to work on it much this week. This is also in Drops Nepal, which is a really lovely yarn. I'm really happy knitting all of these slippers hasn't taken my love for Drops Nepal away. But this is like my light in the middle of all of these slippers, just a project where I have to focus a bit more than with the slippers, but it doesn't have a deadline. I'm only knitting the 1. It's just everything the slippers are not, except for that the yarn is the same, but this is really enjoyable. I am so excited to get to work more on this, but just having it to look at it is also really great to remember that not everything in knitting is a deadline. Yeah, so that is this week of knitting, mostly just a lot of slippers. I wish I could show you all of the slippers I did this week. I'm going to try to see if I can find them. So, of course, try to knit a lot on this week. And then the first thing I did this week was to finish this pair up. I think I had knit a little bit on this pair. This is in the color Forget Me Not in the biggest size. And then I knit this pair. Yeah. This has not been sewn together yet, so it has a couple of ends. This has been sewn together, so I'm going to felt these together soon. And these also finish one family because the rest of the slippers for this family are the baby slippers. So I did that. The rest won't be in the right order. I also did these in the forget-me-not color for a cousin. These are in the 38 to 39 size. And then this is for the mother of that cousin. I've been really trying to work my way through families now to just have less names to look at. So these are in the ochre color in 40 to 42. Let me see. I also did this pair. This is in the color olive, also biggest size. I've also been trying to do as many in the biggest size as possible because the biggest size is definitely the hardest on my motivation. So I'm trying to like not end this whole project off by just having to do all of the biggest ones. So I've been trying this week. I've also, the 2 pairs I pawned off on my mom were 2 of the biggest pairs, so I'm slowly working my way down. But this pair I made, that also finished the family. And then, let me see, it's a bit of a mess in here because I have also been trying to sort everything by family. And then I finished these 2 pairs. This is in the biggest size again, in the light blue color, and this is in the size 38 to 39 in the blush color. The most like 38 to 39 and the biggest size 44 to 46 has been the most usual size to have during this project. So the pattern, the whole pattern for the big size and the whole pattern for 38 to 39 is branded in my brain. I don't have to look at the pattern at all anymore. But I think that's all of the slippers that I made this week. I'm really happy with how many of them were in the biggest size and also how many families I was able to cross off my list completely. Now I just need to be able to cross off some families completely when it comes to felting too. But yeah, I'm really excited, and the more I get to felt, I also hope the more I felt, the more clean looking this basket will be, because now it's a bit of a mess. Also, all of the felted ones I'm going to label. I have gotten labels this week, or that's a lie, my husband went to the store and got labels for me. This is a project we're doing together now at this point because I need that to be able to finish it. So he got labels, and I'm going to like connect the slippers with a thread and then connect that to the label and write names on them so I don't forget. And then all of the finished families that are all finished felting will be at the bottom of this basket, and then the top will be the things that are still a work in progress. Hopefully that will make this a bit less of a mess, but with this many pairs of slippers I think it's going to be a bit of a mess anyways. But that is everything I was able to work on this week. I was able to knit a lot, but since I knit a lot on just the same thing over and over again, it's not the most exciting for me either. But hopefully, fingers crossed, next week will be the last week of knitting slippers, and if not, the week after that definitely will be, because the deadline I'm going after now is the 20th of November, so we are hopefully going to reach that no matter what it takes. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. If you did, please leave a like and a comment. That means the absolute world to me. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. Bye!